Hi, I'm Steve, and on this channel, I'll be telling you about interesting things related to our world and beyond. Today we'll find out what would happen if all the people on Earth jumped in the same place at the same time. Let's go! Imagine a perfectly coordinated moment when every single human on Earth, over 8 billion of us, gathers on one giant spot and jumps at exactly the same time. It sounds like the setup for a cartoon gag, but what would really happen? First, we'd have to pick a place. The entire human population standing shoulder to shoulder would cover a few thousand square kilometers, roughly the size of a small country. Let's say we built a massive platform somewhere in the middle of a continent, strong enough to hold our combined weight, and everyone squeezes in. The atmosphere would buzz with anticipation, the countdown begins, and billions of knees bend in unison. At the instant of the jump, the scene would be surreal. A shock wave of voices, air displaced by billions of bodies, the ground momentarily relieved of an estimated 600 million metric tons of weight. For a fraction of a second, Earth's crust will rebound ever so slightly like a mattress when you take the weight off. But Earth is enormous. Compared to the planet's mass, our combined jump is negligible. The change in force is far less than what tides from the moon cause every day. No one would feel the ground move beneath their feet because the scale is so huge, and the energy of the jump dissipates almost immediately into vibrations too small to notice.
Then, inevitably, gravity wins. Everyone comes down. That's where the real impact happens. Billions of feet hitting the surface at once would generate a thud more like a distant thunderclap than an earthquake. Instruments sensitive enough might report a tiny blip on seismographs, but it wouldn't crack streets or topple buildings. The ground beneath us is incredibly solid compared to our small bursts of energy. If anything, the greatest hazard wouldn't be to the Earth, but to ourselves. 8 billion people trying to land in exactly the same place would produce chaos, collisions, injuries, people falling on top of each other. In reality, the logistics of organizing such an event are more dangerous than the physics of the jump.
But let's stretch our imagination further. Suppose our one spot isn't on land, but on an enormous floating platform in the middle of the ocean. Would the combined jump create a mega wave? Not really. Even if all of us jumped together, the amount of water displaced would be tiny compared to the size of the ocean. You'd get a splash, maybe a small ripple spreading outward, but no world-ending tsunami. The ocean absorbs and distributes energy much more effectively than solid ground. Ships nearby might feel a faint lock, nothing more. Another angle. Could we shift Earth's orbit or tilt by doing this? The answer is no. Earth's mass is 5.97 times 10 to the 24th kilograms. Our combined mass is about 0.000000001% of that. Even launching ourselves upward at record speeds would barely register. The conservation of momentum means the planet does get an equal and opposite kick, but it's smaller than the drift caused by the wind on a mountain. Earth shrugs it off without noticing. Where the scenario becomes interesting isn't in geophysics, but in social and environmental consequences. For one coordinated moment, humanity would have demonstrated unprecedented unity. Governments, cultures, languages, time zones, all synchronized to a single act. It's the largest flash mob in history. A symbolic gesture of shared experience. Imagine the aerial view, a sea of people compressed into one location, the sound of billions of shoes hitting the ground, a roar that echoes across the sky. The jump itself would be less a scientific event and more a spectacle of solidarity. And there might be side effects on a local environment. 8 billion humans in one spot would create immense pressure on infrastructure, sanitation, and air quality. Roads and fields would be trampled, wildlife displaced, and the temperature of that area could rise noticeably simply from body heat.
After the jump, dispersing the crowd would take days. Planes, trains, and ships would be jammed, leaving the jump site resembling the aftermath of a gigantic festival. Economies would pause as the entire workforce takes a day off to participate. The news coverage would be global, memes would explode across the internet, and scientists would scramble to analyze whatever minuscule trivia they recorded.
In the end, the laws of physics are clear. Even united, humanity is small compared to our planet. Our collective jump wouldn't knock Earth off its axis, flood cities, or trigger volcanoes. It would, however, stand as an extraordinary moment of human cooperation, proof that when billions act together, we can make headlines, if not earthquakes. The real story isn't about moving the Earth, it's about moving ourselves. The energy released wouldn't shake continents, but it might shake our perception of what's possible when we coordinate on a planetary scale. For a few seconds, as everyone hung in the air, there would be silence, a literal suspension of humanity above the ground. And when we landed, the world would be exactly the same, except perhaps for us, who'd remember the day we all jumped together.